If you buy a hard disk or you have bought a hard disk from the market, new hard disk, you cannot store the data. You cannot store the data into the hard disk. Why? Because first you need to create a partition. Until you will not create a partition, you cannot store the data into the hard disk. Because hard disk is a physical part, but there is no any logical part. So until the physical part is there, so no one can store the data. First you need to create a partition. It is depend on your requirement. You can create the one partition or you can create the 2, 3, 4 partition. Once you will create the partition, then you will make the file system, means you will format this particular partition. Until you will not format this partition, you cannot store the data. Once you will format or make it any file system, maybe the FAT, maybe the NTFS, maybe the ext 2 to 4, whatever type of the any type of the file system must be created into the partition. Once the file system will be created, now you can store the data. So just you will buy a you will buy a hard disk from the market. You cannot store the data directly until you will not create a partition and format the data then. So actually partitioning, creating the partition based on different type of the partition or the method are used to creating the partition. One method known as a traditional. Traditional means like you, me and other other engineer are doing on a local computer or the PC. PC means personal computer, on the personal computer. So this is the method is a traditional, means someone is going right click and create a new partition. So this is the way when you can create the multiple partition. But there is another method. It is called LVM. LVM means logical volume manager. So logical volume manager used for the partition, doing the partition and adding the multiple hard disk. For the example, there is a 1 TB hard disk. So you can create a one partition and the size is a 1 TB. Is it? Yes. You cannot create the more partition. When you attach the new hard disk, you will have to create a new partition. Okay. But in a LVM, you can create a single partition by adding the multiple hard disk. You can create a single partition by adding the multiple hard disk may be 2, 3, 4, 5, 100, thousands. So this is called the LVM. But LVM is not a RAD. What is the RAD? We will discuss later. So traditional partition places the single partition on a single drive. It is the limited by the size of the individual drive. LVM is aggregates the storage capacity from adding the multiple drives. So this partition is a flexible and the scalable. Means it is the expandable. You can expand 10 TB, 100 TB, 1000 TB. It's depend on your requirement or depend on the organization's requirement. Okay. So now the partition has been created. How the data will be accessed? Because if you have the hard disk, you have stored the data into the hard disk. But how will you access this hard disk? Maybe possible of the connectivity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In a traditional way, you can buy a hard disk, then you can create a partition. Okay. But in a LVM, you can create a partition and you can add the multiple hard disk. Like this is the partition. There is a one hard disk. Then you can extend this partition. When you will add the new hard disk, the extension will be done. or you can extend this partition by adding the multiple hard disk. It may be the 4, 10, 20, 30, but your partition name will be the single, like the partition D, partition E, partition F. But LVM support only in a Linux. This is not support on the Windows.